Jetmoto 2124 was an unreleased prototype that was in development that was due to be released in the spring of the year 2000 for the PlayStation 1, but due to problems with development and the relatively low sales of previous entries in the series led to the cancellation of the project entirely. But in recent years, a prototype version has started to show up of an early test build of the game that's available now online that you can test out and play for yourself if you're using an emulator. I will leave a link below in the description to a web page that has a lot more information about this prototype build, and it will discuss a lot more elements that were involved during the development processes, and it will give you a better idea of the whole ideas behind the game when it was being built. So again, I'll leave the link to that web page down below so you can go and check it out. So the game comes equipped with a number of different tracks. Now, not all of them are playable. It has some key features in terms of the options. You can pick a certain number of characters, and with the tracks that are available you do have access to various different sound effects, and you can complete some of the tracks where you can complete like various laps. But in most cases, with the tracks that are available, there's quite a number that are there, but only about half of them are fully playable. Some of them will inevitably crash as you're playing, while others are just completely unfinished. You'll notice that when you go to play through them, as there's certain areas and pieces from the maps that are missing, that you will be able to get to a certain point in the map and then you'll end up trying to go over a jump only to realise that there's no platform available for you to jump to, or there is one but it's so high up that you can never get to it. So from having spent a bit of time trying to play this prototype, as it is an early development build of the game, there are a lot of glitches and a lot of features. It is playable for the most part, but you can see some reasons as to why the game would have been cancelled, because there was a lot of features in the game, even though that looked relatively good, and graphically it looked good as well, especially in the earlier levels. But as it's based on more futuristic events, even that it is the same with the previous entries in the series, but a lot of the levels, from what I have personally played myself, in some cases can feel very similar to each other, almost to a point that it can almost feel repetitive, if you will. Another main thing to note as well is, even though this game has been known as Jetmoto 2124, but when you dive into the game, when you look at some of the game files and background images, you can get a clear indication that shows up at times where it says Jetmoto 2125 instead. So it's really hard to know what way or how they were going to name this game and what way it was going to be presented going forward should the development have continued. So the only thing I can think of is that the 2124 was just more of a makeshift or a stand-in for the overall name, and it could have been changed as the development of the game continued. Now, for the bits that I have been able to play myself, especially in the early stages, it does work, but it does have its own flaws, as I mentioned, and in some parts can be quite frustrating, but I suppose that's what you can expect from playing a prototype, because it's never going to be in full working order. But for what it is and what is available, it is worth checking out, especially just to kind of get an idea of the various stages of the development processes of an old school PS1 game, and this here is a great example to see that, so it is worth checking out. You'll get to see a lot of quite unique and unusual style features, especially with it being in a very futuristic setting. And even aside from the glitches, you can complete races, especially in the earlier maps, and you can go through various laps where you have like 3 laps to race on and the race will end. Now, you'll have other characters on the track with you, but for the most part a lot of them don't really do anything. They just kind of just stay in their space at the start of the map while you can go and do your thing. But it is just a cool concept to be able to test out an in development title that generally could have been released for the PlayStation. So I'd love to know your thoughts on it if you have played it yourself, or even did you know that it existed. So be sure to share it down in the comments below. So if you have enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more gameplay style videos where I do explore a lot more of these unusual early pre-release builds and prototypes that were in development for the PlayStation, then make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be updated when future videos are released. And also do check out this playlist on here on screen, where I do provide other gameplay elements and other reviews of other unique prototypes and early builds of games that were unreleased also on the PS1. So be sure to check them out, and until next time, make sure to keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and keep those gaming memories alive.